So hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of the Masteries. Now today we're going to be going over AD carry, support and top lane. I think it might be AD carry, top then support in that order. But yeah, we're going to go all through them. And this is the standard AD page. Now obviously it's without saying that this is from my personal research and my own opinion, being a Diamond 2 player. And if you have something that works better or you have different opinions, I respect that. But a lot of people of lower tier lows, don't theory craft so well. So yeah, this is kind of just my opinion of what is kind of the best at the moment, but it is subject to change. I'm still doing my own research into Korean players and LoL professionals, so yeah, my masteries could change. And I always say keep up to date with my masteries using LoL King or something like that, because a lot of my pages are kind of named, exactly what they're going to be, so it's quite easy to see what they're for. But anyway, without talking too much, let's go into the first AD carry page. Now I have two AD carry pages, both of them being near identical, just one having a little bit of mana regen into utility, but we'll go over first the standard one. So you'll use this on AD carries such as Vayne, Graves, etc. But you could do a little bit of differences here and there. So we're going to go into double-edged sword. Again, this is quite a risky point to take if you're against a support, something like Thresh, Annie, Leona, etc., because they'll be jumping onto you a lot, and that means you'll be taking more damage. But if you're against a passive-ish lane, then I would recommend taking double-edged sword. But I probably would take it all the time myself, personally, because I play quite aggressive, and I prefer taking the risk than not taking the risk. So double-edged sword. Then moving into Fury. Now this is the point that you can change depending on what AD carry you're going to play. If you're playing more of a spellcaster AD, then it's probably worth taking Sorcery. So if you're playing a Graves, an MF, something like that, even an Ezreal, then take Sorcery over Fury. But for the sake of this, I'm just going pure standard, so Fury, then into Brute Force, which is the AD, then into Martial Mastery, which is the flat 5 AD. Then moving into Executioner and Dangerous Game. Again, I will say that Dangerous Game, I feel it's quite a good mastery point for an AD mid, or an AD carry, and an AP mid, because a lot of time you're picking up the kills and it will just help you sustain a little bit more, may even help you secure another kill if you found yourself a low health after getting one kill. Then moving into Warlord, increases your bonus AD by 5%. Then into Devastating Strikes for the Magic Pen. Now this does help certain AD carries more than others. This will help Ezreal really, really well. It will help Lucian quite well. But then champions like Vayne, it won't help so much because you don't really need the Magic Pen. But, you still need the Armor Pen in there. So obviously be taking that. And then into the Frenzy. So critical strikes grant 5% attack speed for 3 seconds. Stacks up to 3 times. So this is good on champions such as Kate. Well, it's good for all AD carries really, apart from the ones you don't really build crit on. So I would not really take this on Varus because you don't really build crit on him. You build more flat AD just to get your arrows a lot stronger. You wouldn't really get this on MF. But champions like Vayne, Caitlyn, this is really good for. And then finally into Havoc, which overall just increases your damage dealt by 3%. So that is the offense, fairly standard, fairly basic. Just overall, I think, quite a nice package. And then moving into the defense, some block into unyielding. I think it's just the basic choice to go. There's not much else you could do. Enchanted Armor is there, but on an AD carry, you're not building that many resistances. So I think this is the most optimum to go. Recovery in there. Now that is the point that you could either go Enchanted Armor or Recovery. I think Recovery is better, especially in the early game if you're against a poke lane like Caitlyn, Lucian, etc. It will help you just sustain that little bit more. And then into the Veteran Scars, into the Juggernaut, just for a bit of tankiness to make yourself a little bit beefy. Now, the next page, so that is the flat AD page. You can go on LOL King or pause the video right now if you actually just exactly want to go copy it. But now we're moving on to the Mana AD carry. Now, I'm not going to go too much in detail with this, as the offense is exactly the same as the previous page. Again, I will say that you can change the Fury with Sorcery depending on what AD you're playing, but this page is exactly the same in offense, and the only difference with this page is you take out Juggernaut and you take 2 points out of Veteran Scars and you put them in Meditation. So this will be used for champions such as Caitlyn, Ezreal, Corki, potentially Lucian as well, just for champions that you need that mana regen. Varus as well could be one. Need that mana regen in there just for a bit more sustain. If you're a champion that is based on doing spell damage, although you're an AD, this is probably the page you need to run, because a lot of the time you may find that you don't have mana to use them spells in the early game, where this will help. So that is AD. Now we're going to be moving on to top. And this is just my standard top lane page. This would be for a champion, like a tanky top laner. So this could even be for Rammus top lane. He's popping up a little bit more now. Cho'Gath top, something like that. And obviously, depending on what you're playing, if you're playing an AD or AP, all the difference would be you'll take out these points here, the Martial Mastery and the Brute Force, and you'd put them in AP, just depending on what you're playing. So if you're playing an AD or AP, you just move them depending where what you're playing. I'll put them in the AD for now, as that is most likely what you're going to be playing. But anyway, double-edged sword again. I quite like this point. Again, if you're not an aggressive player, if you're not going to take the risks, don't take this point. Maybe put it in one Fury or something. But, I am an aggressive player, so I will take it. Then 5% cooldown reduction. Again, you can change this into Fury if your character is more based on attack speed rather than cooldown reduction. And then again, just put it in whatever you need, the AD or the AP. Now, the main point of this page is the defense tree. So I'll quickly go over this briefly. Basically, the difference between this and, say, a jungle page is you're taking the unyielding or the block into the unyielding instead of the tough skin into bladed armor, as obviously that is jungle creeps, not neutral creeps. Or not, they're jungle creeps, not lane creeps. So again, I've taken enchanted armor, as a lot of time if you're playing a tank top lane, you are building resistances. You are building, say, a Randuin's or something like that. And that will give you quite a little bit of bonus by 5% into the late game, which will be quite nice. But again, if you're not building that many resistances, you can move it into recovery. And then after that, to block your unyielding, we've got Veteran Scars into Juggernaut, which is obviously always nice. And then I've got 2 out of 2 and 2 out of 2 in hardiness and resistances. You can change this depending on what you're against, but obviously you have to be fairly quick in champion select. But if you say you're against a Rumble that doesn't do much AD damage, then I would probably take 1 away from hardiness and put it in resistances, and then even totally get rid of it, and then put it in evasive depending on what you need. And then swiftness reduces the effectiveness of slows by 10%. This is quite a good mastery point for top lane. Seeing that a lot of the time in top lane, if you notice, a lot of the top laners have slows or CC, a little bit of that, and that could stop you getting the kills. So having this reduce of the slows effectiveness is actually quite a good way of securing more kills for top lane. And then we've got 3 out of 3 in Perseverance. Regenerates plus 3% of missing health every 5 seconds. This is a very good point because a lot of the time in top lane, you are brawling, you are dueling, etc. And then it's really the one who regens the quickest, either from lifesteal, health regen, something like that. Whoever regens the quickest then has lane dominance. So the more regen you can get quicker, then this is actually quite a good point. And that's kind of where I would add going into the recovery instead of enchanted armor might be a good idea. And then we've got Second Wind. Increases the self-healing, health regen, lifesteal, and spell vamp by 10% when below 25% health. This is again adding to that point. Whoever can regen quicker will have lane dominance. And especially if you're on a champion, say like Olaf or Singed, etc., Volibear, anything like that, Zac, all of them have regen abilities, and if you're on low health, this will really boost your regen up, and it may give you that little bit extra to secure the kill. And we've also got 2 out of 4 in Tenacious. This point is the one that can be changed around. If you're worried about an early game champion, so if you're, say, playing Garen, you're Garen right here, although his early game is quite good, you may be worried about a Riven level 3 if she starts Elixir. You could take 1 out of Tenacious and put it in Runic Shield. This will give you 50 extra bonus health in the early game, which is actually quite a lot, and that will help you in the early game. So that is a really good point if you're worried about that. And then obviously into the Legendary Guardian, which is just overall a nice mastery point, which gives you a bonus 15% tenacity. If you get a tenacity item like Mercury Treads, then you'll have 50% tenacity, and all incoming CC will be reduced by 50%, which is really, really good. Then moving into the more experiment pages, I'll go into detail of this one. Now, what I have to say, if you are a Vlad player, this is pure experimentation. I actually have not used this mastery page yet, but I was kind of going through it, and I thought this may work, but it may not. I may find that it's too squishy early on. I may find that I don't do enough damage. But in theory, if you can survive the early game on this, then you're looking pretty good. So it's a 9-9-12 page for Vladimir, and this is pretty much just for Vladimir. Not really other champions would use this. And then really quickly, 4 out of 4 in sorcery, then moving into the AP stuff with exposed weaknesses. Now I think this exposed weaknesses is a must, especially on a champion like Rumble, Vladimir, Kennen, or anything with massive AoE. Seeing that damaging an enemy with a spell increases allied champions damage for that enemy by 1% for the next 3 seconds. So in a team fight, That is a really good point. 1% in a team fight, although it doesn't sound a lot, it is. And especially if you're playing Vlad, you put your Hemoplague down, that's an increased damage by 12%. Then you add that on top of it, you're giving your allies 13% more damage for targets that are affected by Hemoplague in that time. So it's a really, really good thing for Vladimir. So that is pretty much the offense. Defense, Enchanted Armor could be moved into Recovery, obviously, as I do always mention. Block into the Unyielding, Veteran Scars into Juggernaut. Fairly standard, not much to explain about here. And then moving actually into the utility, I've got one in Phase Walker, which just it reduces the time of recall by 1 per second, because a lot of the time on Vladimir, you're finding that you can be proxy farming behind a turret, and then you really need to recall quickly without dying, and that 1 second could actually save your life quite a few times in a game. Then moving into 3 out of 3 in Fleet of Foot, 1.5% movement speed. I really do like movement speed for Vladimir. It helps you position your Hemoplague better if you're coming into a fight. If you combine that with Ghost, etc., because a lot of time I take Ghost Flash on Vladimir. I think that is probably the right choice to take. And then 1 out of 1 in Scout, because really there's nothing else to put it in, to be honest. You're not going to have mana regen, or you're not going to go into that because you don't have the mana regen. And if you're going for the Scout Ward, etc., or the Trinket Ward, that will help you just increase range of that ward, to be honest. And then Alchemist increases the duration of potions and elixirs by 10%. A lot of time on Vladimir, you can find you buying an early Elixir of Brilliance, because you just need that early game. You need a little bit of help, because he takes quite a while to vamp up. So this will help you, keep that potion or elixir on a little bit longer, help you sustain when you're using potions as well. And then 3 out of 3 in Summoner's Insight reduces the cooldown of Summoner spells by 10%. Again, the Summoner spells I take on Vladimir are Ghost Flash, purely for escape basis, and that will help me be able to escape a lot more, because I am finding I proxy farm without, I'm not trying to proxy to die, I just proxy farm because I can get every CS in the wave really, really easily. And then the final point, which I think is the best point for Vladimir, 3 out of 3 in Vampirism, plus 3% lifesteal and spell vamp for Vladimir at level 1. So your auto attacks will give you lifesteal, and then the spell vamp, obviously brilliant for Vladimir. With the new Will of Ancients, I may add, will probably be the best thing to do now. I'll have to kind of look into that, because the spirit item used to go, because Will of Ancients wasn't even that good, but now Will of Ancients looks quite good, has that CDR in there, has a bit more AP. So it may be worth doing. Obviously, Will of the Ancients does not have an aura anymore. That's why it's got buffed individually. So that is my Vladimir page. And then my AP top page is just a quite aggressive AP top page that you'd probably use on, say, like a least top if you're not scared of your opponent. And I'm not going to go full into detail of it because it's fairly standard. You're just going into all the AP stuff. I do not take double-edged sword here, because if you're going aggressive AP, although you want to do as much damage as you can, you're probably going to be squishy anyway, and then giving yourself even more damage taken, it's probably not the best idea. But anyway, 4 out of 4 in sorcery, into the AP stuff, into the exposed weaknesses, which will increase damage done by 1% when you hit them with a spell. Then into the Executioner, into Dangerous Game, Archmage, Arcane Blade, Devastating Strikes, and Havoc. And then just the standard AD, obviously, can you move Enchanted Armor into Recovery if needed, Block into Unyielding, Veteran Scars into Juggernaut. And that is just my standard AP page. That may need some tinkering. Now, top 3 I have not used yet, so this is a spare slot that I do have lying around, as, I will be filling in more individual champion ones. And now we're finally moving into the final one of support. Now, although support is my least paid role, I have done some research into it, watching Crepo, looking up his masteries, looking up other supports, Yellow Star, etc. And this is kind of what I found. I've got 2 mastery pages for support, so I've got the 0.13.17 page and the 0.21.9 page. So starting with I think this one is probably going to take the cake that I'm going to use the most, the 0.13.17. And we're going to go as follows. So 2 out of 2 in Block, 1 in Unyielding, 2 out of 2 in Enchanted Armor. I think Enchanted Armor for this case is probably the best thing to do, because a lot of times on supports you are building a lot of resistances, so it will help you survive that little bit more once you've got them resistances. But you can go into Recovery if you are finding that you're getting harassed early game, just for a bit more regen. 3 out of 3 in Veteran Scars. I don't build I don't take the 3% in maximum health, because although supports do get increased gold now, you're not going to build that much health that will make a difference, and I'd rather have the points into a little bit more MR or armor. Now, you could, in effect, if you are just saying that, say it's a Lulu Vayne lane, then you could take it into Juggernaut, because the MR won't help you that much because they're an auto attack lane. But yeah, then we've got the 3 out of 3 in hardiness and 2 out of 3 into the resistance. So that is the defense in there, and now we're moving into utility. So here we go. We got 3 out of 3 in meditation, obviously having a little bit of mana in there. Then in scout, that will increase the range of your trinket by 15%. Obviously supports, really probably going to be upgrading that trinket out the most of the champions. 3 out of 3 in Summoner's Insight, obviously really just basic, having them summon spells off a less cooldown, so that exhaust or ignite to help you get that kill, as well as the flash for escape or engage. 101 Alchemist, but going into the Culinary Master will just help your mana potions or health potions become a little bit more strong, therefore a lot more sustain for that support, which a lot of supports need. Then 3 out of 3 in Greed, which is just a little bit of gold income for you there, and then 1 out of 1 in Scavenger. So plus 1 gold each time an ally kills a nearby lane minion. So again, it's really nice for a support to get that gold income. Over into the right, we've got 2 out of 2 inspiration, plus 10 experience every 10 seconds while near a higher level allied champion. Now that I think is quite a good page. Obviously it's not going to help you late game when you're all like level 18, etc. But a lot of the time, supports do fall behind in XP. You may find your AD is a level ahead of you or 2 levels ahead of you sometimes, and this will help you stay kind of in the game. It won't help you that much because it's only plus 10 experience every 10 seconds, but it's better than nothing, and I still think it's quite a good point. Then moving into the wealth, starting gold by 40, which is just a general nice item. It'll give you an extra health potion or mana potion depending what you want. And then finally into bandit. If you're playing a melee support, then it grants plus 15 gold on a champion kill or assist, and then if you're playing a ranged one, grants plus 3 gold each time an enemy champion is attacked. This cannot trigger on the same champion more than once every 5 seconds. So this actually does promote, so if you're playing a Thresh or an Annie or something like that, it does promote you auto-attacking enemy champions, which I think is quite a good thing, as not many supports do it nowadays, but it is helping to promote that. So that, guys, I think... Oh wait, we actually really quickly go over the other support page, which is the 021-9 page, which I do think is the page that I won't be using as much. But if you are playing a champion that you want to be really tanky on, so say like a Leona or Blitzcrank, even maybe a Thresh, but I'll have to kind of see about that, then this may be the page for you. But again, this is the page that I would probably not use as often, but I thought I may as well mention it. So 021-9, block, unyielding, 2 out of 2 in recovery, 2 out of 2 in enchanted armor, going as tanky as possible with the early game pressure there. Then unyielding, 3 out of 3 in veteran scars, then into the juggernaut health, 3%, because if you're playing like a Leona or something, you can get a really early Sunfire Cape now, and that will be pretty damn good. 3 out of 3 in hardiness. Now again, you're going for that early game pressure, say as a Leona, and trying to get that as much armor as possible will really help you just secure them kills and make sure they don't do enough damage to you. 1 out of 1 in swiftiness, which will be quite good for like a Leona, etc., because you are the one engaging. If they keep slowing you when you're trying to engage, that's going to be a nuisance, so this will help you just get in there a little bit quicker. Perseverance regenerates just a little bit more health. I think this was just a filling mastery point because I needed it to get to the lower stages. 1 out of 1 in runic shield. Again, if you're going for early pressure, this is actually a really, really, really good mastery point to take, as it will help you, have that little bit more health to do them dives, to jump on that AD carry a little bit more. 3 out of 4 in tenacious. If you're playing a support like I've mentioned, then you'll probably be in the middle of a team fight, so getting them bonus resistances is always a good idea. And then finally into legendary guardian, which obviously is that extra little bit of tenacity there, which is always nice. So anyway, I think that that is all my mastery points. Now again, I may add this was just for my personal opinion, and this could be subject to change. If you do want to keep up to date with my masteries, go on Lol King, go on my summoner profile, and they're all named appropriately. I don't name them anything weird, so you can just go look at them there if you do want to see, like in a month's time, what are they now. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys found this a bit useful, and I will see you guys next time.